If you go to sit down for dinner, that can be a 2 or 3 hour affair. But if you go to a wine bar, you can just get a small plate of food, a cheese plate or a meat plate, and you can get a couple of different glasses of wine or get a bottle. And then you can go to another wine bar, or you can then go to dinner if you like. So you have the chance to experience different things. And then also, it's more casual.
And you meet more people.
You do, because people will turn and talk to you. They hear the English. Oh, you guys American? Oh, what you here for? You visiting? You know.
And that's more likely to happen at a wine bar versus if you're at a restaurant with separate tables. A wine bar is more intimate, especially if you're sitting at the bar. Do you have a thirst to learn about wine? Do you love stories about wonderfully obsessive people, hauntingly beautiful places, and amusingly awkward social situations? Well, that's the blend here on the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. I'm your host, Natalie McLean, and each week I share with you unfiltered conversations with celebrities in the wine world, as well as confessions from my own tipsy journey as I write my third book on this subject. I'm so glad you're here. Now pass me that bottle, please, and let's get started. Welcome to episode 138. What's it like to explore Paris by visiting different wine bars? How do you know which company to choose for guided tours? And what do you need to know before buying wine from a list, whether you're in a restaurant or a wine bar? You're going to get those answers and lots more tips and stories in part 2 of our conversation with Tanisha Townsend, who leads wine classes and tours in Paris. You don't need to have listened to part 1, but if you missed that, go back and take a listen after you listen to this one. In the show notes, you'll find a full transcript of our conversation, links to both of my books, how you can join me in a free online wine and food pairing class, where you can find me on Zoom, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube live video every Wednesday at 7 p.m., including this evening. That's all in the show notes at nataliemclean.com/138. Now, on a personal note, before we dive into the show, I'm loving the HBO series Hacks. It's about an aging female comedian in Vegas and the young woman she hires to reinvigorate her routine and career. I especially love watching the two of them brainstorming ideas and punchlines. There's some really funny material in there. It's also touching to see their relationship develop from a very rough start into something that's like love between friends. Sometimes I wish I had a writing partner, but I'd probably fire her or me in less than a week, unless, of course, we were brainstorming over Pinot. All right, on with the show. So let's talk about the tours that you offer. What happens on a tour? I'm sure you have different types of tours, but tell us about some of your more popular wine tours of Paris.
So on a wine tour in Paris, we tour the wine bars because I want to get people to see that part of French life. While there are restaurants and people go sit down at the restaurant, sometimes you just want a quick hangout with your friends, something like that. And so there's specific places that you can go get a great glass bottle of wine and then like a nice cheese plate, meat plate, or just some tapa style food. Depending on what neighborhood, I have 3 different neighborhoods where I go for these tours. And we start at a central meetup point, and then I just kind of explain to them who I am, how I got there, what I'm all about. And then we go to the first location. I order a sparkling wine for them because people don't drink sparkling wine enough. They think about sparkling wine as, oh, it's for a special occasion. Oh, it's for something festive. I'm like, you're in Paris. This is festive. Enjoy this moment. Celebrate. So, we do the ching. Then I have a map of France, of the wine regions. And so I kind of go a little bit through the wine regions, depending on what sparkling wine we have. It varies because the wine lists here vary. Like I may go to a place 1 week and then 2 weeks later, like, oh, yeah, we changed that list. We have something different. So I'll talk about the region from where that wine is from, whether it's Champagne or Cremant or Blanquette or something like that. I'll talk about the region and then kind of move around the map a bit, give them some ideas of, okay, this region means these grapes. Because if they don't leave my tour with anything else, I want them to know at least one region and what the grapes are. Because that's the biggest question that I get, or the most asked question, I should say. If it says Bordeaux on the bottle, what does that mean? Or this says Burgundy, what is that? So that's something that I really want people to leave with, to know, okay, in France, it's the region on the label and not the grape.
Right. Unlike California or a lot of New World countries, they
Right.
lead
And
with the
that's the
grape.
thing. Yep. They lead with the grape until people know the grape. Here, the grape isn't as important. Not even the blend isn't that important. Because that was a question I used to ask when I would go to taste. I'm like, oh, what's the blend? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, didn't you make this? But to them, the region is important because that is, the soil and the climate and all of that. So that's what's important to them. But to other people, for them to kind of understand what they like and relate it to something that they know, they need to know the grape. And so I lead with the grape. Then we go to a second location. We'll have another wine. I'll also order some food there. We talk a little bit more. Now they're getting a little loose. They're asking
Sounds like fun.
questions. I let them look at the menu just so they can see how the menu is organized. If there is a menu, or sometimes it's a chalkboard that comes over to the table. And then, I tell them how I select the wines. In one particular location, it's a wine shop in the front and then a wine bar in the back. So you'll get up from the wine bar and then walk through the shop. And then I point out some of the labels and the way things are written on the label. Like, okay, this label says IGP. This says AOP. This says, this region. This one has the grape on the front. This is shaped this way. So, it's red. This is shaped this way. So it's probably white. That kind of thing. And so people like that. I pick the places, not necessarily tourist locations, but places that they'll go and they're like, oh, it's all locals in here. Places that they wouldn't find necessarily on their own unless they did a whole bunch of research. But no need to research. They have me.
That's what you want, is the sort of hidden gems of a city. I went on a it was mostly food walking tour of Rome. And I loved it because we would have never found these places. The best gelato place, the best buffalo mozzarella cheese. And we went
Yes.
to all these specialty places and smoked prosciutto and or whatever it was. But yeah, so do you go to any famous wine bars? I guess you're going to Offbeat, but the one wine bar I heard about in Paris is Willie's Wine Bar. I don't know
Yeah.
if that still exists or
Still
not.
exists. Well, I don't know after this year we've had, but
Yeah.
I think Willie's is definitely still there. It was there before, but yeah, Willie's is a very popular place. I don't go there on a tour just because there aren't that many places to go around it. I pick a wine bar that is kind of close to other ones so we can walk to the other places instead of, oh, let's go to this wine bar. Okay, let's get on the metro and go to this other one.
Right.
It's like, let's walk to this one, 5 minutes, walk to another one. And then if they're still up for it, we'll go to a third location. If not, we just stay at the second location, get another glass or pichet. And sometimes I have to leave them there because I'm like, no, we're going to stay. All right, up
That's
to you,
right.
but my time is done.
That's
Thank you
great.
for coming out. Yeah.
Awesome. And how many people are generally on a tour?
I don't take more than 6 at a time.
Oh, how nice. Very
Yeah.
intimate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I keep it very small because I want people to be able to talk to each other if they want to. And also the places I go, with them being local kind of insider places, places in Paris aren't that big. So there aren't too many places I can take a group of 10
Right.
or 15. Like we would
Yeah.
take up the whole bar, and well, that's not as much fun.
Do you ever share any tips in terms of ordering from a wine list, no matter where you are, kind of thing?
Yes. The tip I share is the second wine on the list, the second cheapest wine, that usually has the highest markup. So that's not necessarily the deal that people think it is because they expect you to order that one. So if you're thinking of it from a price point ratio, then maybe not the second cheapest one. And also sometimes that's a wine that they're trying to get rid of for whatever reason. So yeah, that's one of my tips that I'll give away.
Oh, awesome. And in Paris, are the wine bars mostly focused on French wines or do they have a variety of wines?
French.
French. Okay.
French. Me,
Okay.
when I've done tastings for people and they've been like, you can grab an Italian wine and a wine for here. it's hard to find. Like now I know where to go so I can find other wines, but there are specialty stores for that. It's not just at the regular neighborhood shop where I can find a wide variety of everything. There are shelves and shelves and shelves of French wine. And I'm like, oh, well, what about I'm looking for a South African Pinotage? They're like, no, but the other wines are here on this shelf. I'm like, shelf? So all the other wines of the world get a shelf. The rest of the shop is French.
Okay.
So there's specialty shops for, I know they're at Portugal. We have Italian shops here, Greek, things like that. So if I need something else, I have to plan it in advance and think about it so I can order it online or go across town.
But that's a treat too, to go to Paris and really dig down into French wines we can't even get in North America. So
Absolutely. That is definitely a high point of living here and the wine I have access to. A lot of the wines that I studied before or read about, like I can get those here. And also, luckily, I'm in Paris where I have access to all of the French wines. In some of the other regions, like it's very regional and you just have access to the wines of that particular region.
so it is cosmopolitan in that it draws from all the regions. Do you have a favorite region taste-wise?
It's probably Southern Rhône.
Southern Rhone. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I really love Grenache. I really,
Ah,
really like Grenache. And just the flavor of it, it's spicy, but then you also get the berry fruit. It can sometimes be smoky. It warms you up from the inside out. It's good in the winter, but then also in the summer with food off the grill. I mean, you get that fresh hamburger off the grill, you pair it up with the Southern Rhone Red.
yeah. Nice pairing. And I love the texture of Grenache. It's so like almost liquid velvet. It's so beautiful. It's smooth but not wimpy.
There you go.
Yeah. But let me backtrack a little bit to when you first moved to Paris. I think it was when you first moved. You had mentioned a little story to me ordering in a restaurant when your French wasn't that strong.
Oh, yes.
What
So
happened?
after this instance, I was like, okay, Tanisha, you at least need to know what these words mean. So I'm at a restaurant and I'm looking through the menu and I'm like, okay, I know what fish is poisson, okay, and chicken is poulet, okay, got it. Didn't see any of those. But then I'm like, oh, andouille, okay, like andouille sausage, like that New Orleans dish. Like I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. So I order what I think is that. And so the waiter's like, oh, okay, great, and writes it down. And then it comes back, and then this sausage is on my plate. And as it passes me, I'm like, this smells familiar, but I don't, it's a strong smell. It's familiar. I'm not sure. I cut into it. And then the guy comes and says, oh, how do you like the andouillette? And I was like, andouillette? Well, andouillette is, well, as we call it in the South, chitlins or pig intestines
Oh, okay. Oop.
shoved into a sausage. So it's in a sausage form.
Right?
So when I cut it and looked at it, like I was like, oh, I know exactly what this is. And everybody else knew what it was because it's a delicacy here. They love it.
Oh,
Like it is
okay.
offered at restaurants. It is a fantastic treat for
Wow.
everyone else but me.
Was it because of the what it was mentally or the taste for you?
Both. Because I've had
Both.
chitlins before and I don't like them. So
Okay.
when I cut into it, I was like, oh, I have to eat it because they're all looking at me. So I was like, oh, and they're like,
What is it supposed to taste like? Is there a way to compare it to something?
if you know tripe, it's like tripe. If you've ever had tripe in like ramen or anything like that, it's like that.
All right. Hmm. Yeah, it doesn't sound that appetizing. Hopefully, you had a decent wine to go with it.
The wine was good, and then there were also fries next to it. So I ate all the
You
fries
ate the fries.
and then went to McDonald's after. I was like,
Oh
I gotta
no.
have something I know.
For the real Paris
Right.
experience.
Because I was like, I'm hungry. Like I'm still hungry. So I have to eat. But yeah,
Sure.
after that, I was like, I'm gonna learn these food words because I can't make this mistake again.
Right. Good motivation. You'll never forget that word, the visual and everything else.
Never in my life. Okay. Never.
And I forgot to ask, like, when we are going to a city, whether it's Paris or another city, what are some key things we should look for when we're choosing a tour company or a tour guide to take us around? And we obviously someone who specializes in food and wine, but beyond that, what should we be looking for?
Definitely look at their specialty, who the guides are, where they get the guides from. Is this guide someone that has studied wine or studied history or, used to be a chef, something like that, that they're able to speak to things from a more personal point of view instead of just they're reading it off a card. You go on the tour and they're like, okay, here we are. And this we have this is a cheese from what is it? What did you say? No,
Right.
you want someone that can speak to it and also kind of give you a personal story about maybe a time where they had that cheese or how they learned about cheese.
Those stories, yes.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
really feel that when they have that conversation with you. So look at that. Then also look at where you're going, what the neighborhood is. In some instances, may be difficult because you're like, oh, I'm not that familiar with this neighborhood. But just know if someone is taking you, like, oh, I'm going to take you on a food tour around the Eiffel Tower. Oh, they're not. It's no, like that's not a thing.
Right. Right. So you want to get away from the overridden touristy places and go somewhere you wouldn't go yourself,
Absolutely.
perhaps. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's great. Great advice. I have to ask you though. I don't know if you saw it, but did you did you see the movie Emily in Paris?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. That's
I
okay.
did
So
not.
you don't have to pass judgment on that. But do you have some favorite movies? Emily in Paris, by the way, for anyone who's listening, is on Netflix. And reviews of it said it hit every French stereotype, but it was also just sort of brain candy for others who liked it. But anyway, what are your favorite movies about Paris or TV shows?
Oh, I'm trying to think. What have I? And this is an old one. Amelie was super cute. I really like that.
Amelie. Oh,
Amelie,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
that one
that
was
was
cute.
beautiful.
Actually, on one of my tours, we walked past the bar where she worked in the movie.
Okay.
That's in the 18th. So yeah, so you can see that. Trying to think of what other TV shows I've seen about Paris.
There's probably some a long time ago, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking it's not too many that I'm watching about Paris necessarily, but like a lot of things that are French.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm probably thinking there's something with Audrey Hepburn or something. I remember that one where, oh, well, that was My Fair Lady. I don't know if that was in Paris. I think it was. And they sang The Night They Invented Champagne. I love that song. So she had to learn how to taste like a lady. Anyway.
And there was a scene in was it Something's Got to Give with Diane Keaton maybe, where they were at dinner in Paris. That might not be the right movie, but they had dinner in Paris, and so I liked those scenes because that was a real. And it's funny because what they ordered at the restaurant at that time did not exist really. It wasn't on the menu, so people would go visit the restaurant after and be like, "Oh, I want this dish," and they're like, "No, we don't have that." Well, they eventually changed it, and then they started serving that because they realized they were missing out.
Cool. So, on your many tours that you've taken so far, has anything ever unusual happened, or did you have anybody of note ever take a tour or anything along those lines?
Not yet. I wish there was like a famous person that just showed up and they
You
were like,
probably
"Yeah,
have to
we're
sign
on
an
a tour."
NDA. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I would still be super excited, but no, that hasn't happened yet, but fingers crossed.
Anything ever go wrong or bizarre or anything like that? Or not wrong, but anything unusual ever happen along those lines?
The only thing wrong that happened one time is, and I felt like this was just a series of unfortunate events. But the first place we went to, the woman was getting up and she bumped the table. And so then the glass fell on someone.
Oh,
And so
no.
that happened. Then we get to the next location and then they don't take cards. So I have to now leave them and then scramble to find an ATM to get cash.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I get lost or turned around like, how is there no ATM in this neighborhood? And so, and then running back. By the time I get back, of course, they had ordered extra things. And so now I'm trying to tell them, okay, how do I tell them this all isn't included in the tour part? How do I get
That's
this out?
tricky.
And they're drunk. So,
Oh.
like, I missed out on that part. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
trying to have that conversation and be like, okay, I don't know how to cut my losses here or what to do. Just don't write a review on this, okay? Don't. Mm-mm.
Right. Right.
Should we leave your review? Mm-mm, don't. Mm-mm. Are you on TripAdvisor? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, not there. Oh, I wanted to make sure we get to your photos as well. So I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, there you go. I love this shot, by the way. I love your hair. Oh my gosh.
When I was sending you pictures, I was like, oh, I've had all kind of hairstyles.
That's great. Very versatile. Are you leading a wine tour here? It looks official. You've got charts in the back.
Yes. So this wasn't the wine tour itself, but this was me preparing for a wine tour. So this was a photo shoot I did to promote this stop on the wine tour.
Okay. All right.
And this is actually a wine shop. And it's a wine shop that I found when I first moved here because I just happened to stumble into it because it was close to where I lived. And I was scared to ask for what I wanted because language. But then I hear this woman speaking. She's like, no, well, we don't have that. Okay, well, we can do it later. I'm like, oh, she speaks English. And so I look at her. I said, Madame, you speak English? She said, I'm from California. Yes. I was like, oh,
I found my people.
yes. So that ended up being my wine shop for a few years while I lived in that neighborhood. So I would go there all the time.
And this one looks like you're leading a wine tour. Is this kind of the format? You've got your iPad and you've got maps here, and I guess that's where you're instructing.
It depends on who the people are. This one, I knew one of the guys. And so he messaged me before and said, listen, we want to really kind of get in depth on some things. So we don't want it to necessarily just be casual, just drinking. We kind of really want to get some information, and have it a little more structured. So I pulled out the tablet and had a PowerPoint presentation and, drew the slides and everything like that. So, yeah. And
That's
this is the
terrific.
place we're in the wine bar. And then this is another one that the shop is in the front.
Oh, okay, great.
So we were getting into it there.
Ah, is this a wine tour as well?
That's also a wine tour. Yeah. And I think I was about to say something. And this is a wine tour in the summer. This was so funny because I actually thought they were going to cancel because I think it was like 102 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, okay, I don't even know how this is going to play out. But this particular place has air conditioning. So I called them. I was like, yeah, we're still going to come. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, we're air conditioned. It's fine. I said, what? You are. So it was perfect.
Thank goodness for that. And cold bubbly doesn't hurt either when it's hot.
Yes.
So, yes.
And that was one of the champagne alternatives that we.
All right. Terrific. And where are we here? Looks like you're in a wine cellar.
This is in a wine cellar, and this was a group tasting that I was doing for some concerts. It was a group of concerts called Afropunk. And before this particular concert came to the city, they were like, well, we want to do some outreach or some other events to go along with it. So I did the wine tasting portion of it. So they did a tour. And then after the tour, they walked over to this cave. And then I did a wine tasting for them down there.
Fantastic. All right. I think I have one more here. Oh, this is cute. What was in that bottle? It's empty now.
All I can remember right now is red wine.
Red wine.
Yeah.
Looks like a Cabernet glass.
Yeah. And this, I do remember where I was. I was in Bulgaria.
Ah, okay.
No, Serbia. I was in Serbia.
Okay.
It was a conference that I had gone to in Serbia. And then we went to, again, wine bars, where I lived my life. We went to a wine bar after. And I was like, oh, well, what's this? And so I poured it and I was like, oh, well, we're done.
Night's over.
Where do we get the next one?
But I really liking the idea of wine bars as a way to explore a city, not committing just to one dinner in one place. Like whether it's a daytime tour or a night, like that just sounds like fun, whether you're being led by someone ideally, or just going on your own, have a little nibble there and a little glass of wine and just get to more places.
Absolutely. And especially in Europe, especially places like France and Spain and Italy, where they take their meal so seriously. Like if you go to sit down for dinner, that can be a 2 or 3 hour affair. But if you go to a wine bar, you can just get a small plate of food, a cheese plate or a meat plate, and you can get a couple of different glasses of wine or get a bottle. And then you can go to another wine bar, or you can then go to dinner if you like. So you have the chance to just experience different things. And then also just, it's more casual. It's more light.
That's right. And you meet more people and
you do. Because people will turn and talk to you. They'll be like, hey, oh, they hear the English. Oh, you guys American? Oh, what you here for? You visiting? So
and that's more likely to happen, I think, at a wine bar versus if you're at a restaurant with separate tables. A wine bar is more intimate, especially if you're sitting at the bar. Yeah, cool. So do you have any wines with you today, Tanisha?
I do.
Okay.
This is a
Ooh.
Diane.
Okay.
And the reason that I am a fan of this one, this is a new offering from Jacques Lurton out of Bordeaux.
It's a
And
familiar
I
name.
like it because it's single varietal.
Ah,
A lot Bordeaux is a blend, but
yes.
he wanted to do something a little different. And so he was like, I want to have single varietals so you can taste these different grapes, see what they taste like, so then you can better know what you like, how much you like of one in the blend versus another. And so, yeah,
What a great idea. And is that a Sauvignon Blanc, did you say? Or is
this
it a
one is a
Semillon?
Semillon.
Semillon, right. Because that's the traditional blend, those two grapes. Yeah.
Yep, I have the Sauvignon Blanc too, but I'm like, I want to try the Semillon first.
Oh, good, good, good. Well, I'd love for you to taste it with us if you can. Is it open?
It's not.
Oh, that's okay. No worries.
And I was like, wait, when I sat down and started talking, you can edit this part. When
That's
I sat down, I
okay.
was like, oh, where's my corkscrew? I was ready for this.
No worries. Have you tried it before?
I have not tried this one before, but I have tried other wines. I've had the white blend before, and
From
I
Lurton.
absolutely love it. Yeah, from Lurton. I absolutely love it.
And what does it taste like? What do you get from a Bordeaux blend like that?
I like it because it's not overly citrusy like a lot of Sauvignon Blancs can be. Like the Sauvignon Blanc there is not overpowering. You're not getting a lot of the citrus or a lot of the herbs. You're getting a lot more of the stone fruit and the softness from the Semillon. And for me, it's not a much better blend, but it kind of works better together for me. These are from Entre du Mer. He also has some on the left bank of Bordeaux. And because of the soil, you get a bit of that minerality, but again, it's not over the top. Everything is like very well balanced and very integrated. That's the word I needed. I'm like distributed? No, yeah, but very well integrated.
Where is Entre de Mer approximately in Bordeaux? It's between the two lakes, I think.
It's between the two, but kind of like at the bottom. So you have the left bank, Entre du Mer, and then the right bank.
Oh, okay, got it. And you have the other one there of his? Do you have the Sauvignon Blanc or?
I don't have it right here.
Okay, no, that's
I don't have
fine.
it
That's fine.
right here. Yeah. But I do like that he did separate ones for us.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept.
It's a Sauvignon Blanc and then a Cabernet Sauvignon in the line. So yeah, the opportunity to try a lot of different things.
And what would you pair with those?
With this, I think I would probably, and I'm so simple when I pair things. With this one, I'm thinking I would keep it simple and do like roasted chicken
Mm,
because
that'd be good.
the flavors would still mesh well, and you don't want a bunch of flavors in the chicken. So you don't want cream or tomato or any kind of citrus, lemon or orange sauce or things like that. But the roast chicken, if you get that skin a little crispy,
Yeah.
or cheese, I mean, you really can't go wrong with cheese.
Would it be a certain type of cheese?
I would say I put Comté with everything. A hard Comté. I would do a hard one with this. So a hard Comté, not any of the softer, gooey cheeses necessarily.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And is there a particular wine book that stands out as being one of your favorites?
I mean, I read this book once called Red, White, and Drunk All Over. Maybe you've heard of
This is
it.
a plant. This sounds like a plant. Yeah. Your PayPal payment is in the mail or whatever.
Maybe you've heard of it. I'm not sure.
Thank you.
But
Thank you
no.
for reading it.
No, a book that I really enjoyed, not fully about wine, but what to drink with what you eat.
Oh, yes, the pairing book. Yeah.
Yes, I really like that. And then also, just we want to talk wine, How to Taste by James Robinson.
Ah, two classics. That's great. Good books for everybody to have in their library.
Yeah, I really like those that are really helpful. Because with what to drink with what you eat, you can read it if you like, but you can also just thumb through it and say, you know what, I'm drinking Semillon tonight. What goes with it? And you go to the Semillon section, and then underneath it would give you the different dishes that will pair well with it.
It's a great reference. Yeah, really well done. This is fantastic, Tanisha. Is there anything we haven't covered that you would like to mention?
Is there anything left? We said everything. We talked Paris, we talked tours,
We did.
movies, wine, life, milk.
Absolutely.
It's milk about everything.
We can do without the milk.
We
It's
talked about
great.
everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people find you online and your tours?
They can find me at girlmeetsglass.com. And on all the socials, at Girl Meets Glass.
No one's going to get that confused. That's great. Easy to spell, easy to remember. Girls Meets Glass. Oh, and I should mention, thank you again for providing a copy of your guide to Paris wine bars. Tell us a little bit about that. What's in it and why we'd all want to win it or else just buy it from you.
Yes. So this ebook is something I actually created during the pandemic because I had been making a list of wine bars that I really enjoyed, whether I toured them or just enjoyed going there with friends. And people would always ask me for recommendations like, hey, I'm in the 7th. Where can I go? Or, hey, I'm going to be in the 11th. Is there a place I can go? I'm like, maybe I should just make the guide. And so the name came from 75 is the department of Paris. So all of the zip codes of Paris start with 75. So it's 75, then 0, blah, blah, blah. And it goes from 1 to 20. So that's why the 75. And then I was like, well, okay, 75 in the 75 is a name. And I was like, oh, do I have 75 wine bars? Actually, I did. Had way more than 75, but could not fit them in the guide because, there's that. So listed them all in the guide with their socials, their hours, but those are loose because, again, they do what they want here. So the hours are in there. But just to let people know, it's broken down by arrondissement, which is the different neighborhoods of the city. And so if you're like, oh, well, my hotel's in the second arrondissement. Okay, well, what wine bar can I go to? And I'm doing like this. You don't look through it because it's not paper, it's an ebook. So you just scroll up.
Sure.
And then you get to the second, and then
you could have that on your smartphone as you're wandering around the city or
Absolutely.
Planning ahead.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, that sounds like a great guide. I definitely want to get one of those. So,
and then also with some cool pictures of some of the wine bars, and then also just of Paris in general. So if you're just missing the city, or if you've never been, it's something to look at and kind of highlight and check some things off. Like I want to go here and here and here.
That's great. What a great resource. Good for you for creating it, Tanisha. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great discussion. I am so jazzed about visiting Paris again and connecting with you in person. I would love to go on one of your tours.
I'm here when you're ready.
All right. Excellent. I'm putting it on my bucket list, my spittoon list. All right. So I will say goodbye for now, but I look forward to chatting with you again, Tanisha.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed my chat with Tanisha Townsend. Here are my top takeaways. Number 1, I love the idea of exploring Paris or any city by taking a walking tour of its wine bars. I think this allows you to sample so much more in terms of food, drink, neighborhoods, conversation, versus committing to a 3-hour restaurant meal. Not that I don't mind a 3-hour restaurant meal. Number 2, I thought Tanisha's tips on how to choose a company for guided tours were excellent. You want someone who can show you the hidden gems off the tourist track, the haunts that you would not discover for yourself. And 3, she had some great advice on how to choose from a wine list, whether you're at a restaurant or a wine bar, as well as pairing French wines with food. In the show notes, you'll find a full transcript of our conversation, how you can join me in a free online wine and food pairing class, links to both my books, where you can find me on Zoom, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube live video every Wednesday at 7 p.m., including tonight. That's all in the show notes at nataliemclain.com/138. And just a reminder that you can win a copy of Tanisha Townsend's Guide to Paris Wine Bars if you comment on any one of the social media posts I've posted on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. All you have to say is, hello, I love wine bars, or whatever you want, and I'll pick a winner randomly from those of you who comment. You won't want to miss next week when Master of Wine, Vanessa Conlon, interviews me for her podcast. I spill lots more secrets and stories from my wine life. In the meantime, if you missed episode 108, go back and take a listen. I chat about Cool Climate Chardonnay and the annual celebration of this grape, which is actually taking place online this week, starting Friday. I'll share a short clip with you now to whet your appetite.
We see people's palates changing. People are eating lighter foods. So the natural evolution would be that the wine styles paired with people's diets. So fresher, crisper, brighter, fresher styles of wine certainly are becoming a consumer hit. The cool climate really does express those particular attributes quite well.
I often taste a lot of wines monthly to review them. And the ones that start to stand out are the big ones. But then you get home and it's almost like meeting someone at a bar who's shouting at you, and that's fine because it's in the context of the bar. But at home, at a dinner party, that guy's way too loud, or gal, I should say. I think that's the wine style too. It's more subtle. It's more conducive to conversation. It's in balance and in harmony.
Yeah,
but
that's a great analogy.
Yeah, I'm not going to bars anymore.
If you like this episode, please tell one friend about it this week, especially someone you know who'd be interested in the tips that Tanisha shared. Thank you for taking the time to join me here. I hope something great is in your glass this week. Perhaps something French that pairs well with small plate nibbles. You don't want to miss one juicy episode of this podcast, especially the secret, full-bodied bonus episodes that I don't announce on social media. So subscribe for free now at nataliemclean.com/subscribe. Meet me here next week. Cheers.